What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be looking at more Spring Cup battles, but before we get into those battles, I just want to give a quick PSA. If you guys are interested in submitting battles for showcasing or coaching, I have a link in the description that you can submit battles to. I am definitely dry on content right now, and I do not want to just keep showcasing the same teams over and over and over. So if you have a cool Pokemon that you're looking at for this cup, or just a unique team that's working well for you, feel free to either submit them for showcasing or coaching, either one. You can just specify in the submission. Today we're going to be looking at a little bit of a highlight reel of a climb where I went up basically 200 elo from like 2500s to 2700s. I'm very close to expert now. I think I'm just like a few games off, so hopefully hitting that soon. But without further ado, let's hop into some battles. So you're going to see the 4 teams that we're looking at today. And they should be in order. We've got the Barbarical lead into Jellicent. Now, this is a pretty neutral lead, but it is negative. Jellicent does win the ones here. However, you can bait on Barbarical, and I try and bait on the potential CMP tie with their second Surf because they baited with a Surf. And we actually do grab a shield, which means I can get to the Stone Edge if they overfarm, which they do. Stone Edge does connect, and it leaves the Jellicent at 1 HP, so we're definitely going to let this go, especially because it's on CMP. So now we have given them switch advantage, but we have energy advantage on our Mawile, and they have their own Mawile in the back, and we have a shield advantage. Going to full send the Iron Head here. There's not really any point in baiting. We're already up shields, and they let that go, which means I can just fully farm down. I try and go for a spicy little catch of the Weather Ball, which is unnecessary, but we were going to win that game either way. Into Ferrothorn, so also not a good lead. This time we're going to get out into the Cacturne. They have a Tropius in the back, and we are going to go for a double resisted Trailblaze, just hoping to boost our Sucker Punches in this match. And we're only going to get one more, and that doesn't do too much damage. They have loads of energy here, so I can come in Mawile right away. I can just eat this energy on the Mawile, and they go for an Aerial Ace. Definitely go for Leaf Blade here. Leaf Blade is the better damage per energy move. That being said, they do finally go for the Leaf Blade, and then we are able to get the full farm down. It is a Mawile of their own in the back, so we can just connect with the Iron Head. It does do some decent chip, and now we can come in with our Barbarical. Because they overfarm slightly on the lead, they are able to outpace, but it is just a mirror shot, unfortunately. I am going to overfarm here. I'm going to go for the cross chop before they make it to a potential power whip, but then they do throw right away. I'm going to respect it in case they decide to full send this time, and they do, which is actually massive for me because that means I can make it to back-to-back cross chops. But I'm worried my opponent knows I'm at back-to-back, so they might go for a catch here. So I switch, expecting a catch, but they do not go for it. They Fire Fang farm down with their Mawile. I should be able to live a power-up punch from this range, and now I have the cross chop loaded. I know I win CMP, and now I know for sure that they're in range because of those Fire Fangs, and now cross chop is able to KO the Ferrothorn, and we're able to take that win. Are we playing the same team? No, we're into the second team. We've got Carbink on the lead into an Abomasnow. They switch out into a Jellicent. I have an okay response, and Amoonguss here. I try and go for a Surf catch, but I am unsuccessful. However, I can eat a Shadow Ball here, no problem. And to be honest, I have 2 answers to Abomasnow, so I don't really need switch in this situation. I am going to throw the Foul Play on CMP tie with their next Shadow Ball. Assuming they full send, I'm just going to let this go. I can come in with Golisopod, get the full Shadow Claw farm down. My Asana should go through there. I'm not sure why it didn't. But now I should be able to get the full Shadow Claw farm down, assuming I can get a Shield Call correct here of the Shadow Ball. And it is a Surf bait, but I still think they will not be able to make it to another move, and they can't. And what are they going to do? They're going to come back in with their Abomasnow. I'm loaded with energy here, and their fast move is resisted, so a bit of a strange play. Maybe just reading that they have just a good answer to Carbink in the back. So maybe I do want to preserve my Golisopod, and I do. I bank it with 2 charge moves, and they have a Quagsire in the back, and it is the non-shadow, which means it can eat 2 Moonblasts, which is pretty unfortunate. But it's going to take a lot of charge moves from my opponent. I'm thinking 3 Aqua Tails here. Yeah, it looks like plus the Mud Shots, and 2 will just barely not be enough to KO. And then it's just a matter of if I can get to the Moonblast or not. If I can get to the Moonblast and grab the shield, this would be absolutely massive, or just get the knockout because I have 2 moves loaded on my Gliscod. They let that go because that was their only win con, understanding that if that was a Rock Slide and they live it, then they're in a good position, but they unfortunately do not. They realize I'm at back-to-back moves, so they just let it go on their Bomb Snow, and we're able to take the win. Into the next match, Carbink into Gliscod. Once again, another good lead. My opponent seems to be either lagging or AFK. They come in with a Lapras, and I accidentally overfarmed just one too many, playing to a CMP tie. I am going to shield this up because I'm reading that they're very weak to the Carbink. If they've got Gliscod and Lapras already, they do shield up my power gem. So at this point, I'm going to farm up a little bit and then go for the catch onto my Gliscod. Sparkling Aura is resisted here, so I'm not too worried about it. And I snuck the Shadow Claw through, so I will be able to outpace. I'm not sure an X-Scissor actually will be enough to KO from this range. Lapras is very bulky, but it does. That might be down to IVs in that situation, but I am then able to make it to an Aqua Jet against the Galarian Weezing that comes in, and this will do some pretty decent chip, puts them in the yellow, which is great. And at this point, I can just let this go. I have Carbink, and they're on Brutal Swing, so potentially on Brutal Swing Overheat or Brutal Swing Sludge. Either moveset is honestly okay for Carbink. The rock typing neutralizes the sludge damage, so that is only neutral damage, and then I can just go for the full farm down, or I can go for a catch, because you guys know me, I love to do flashy catches. We do catch a sludge, and we bait out the Gliscod. And at this point, this game is over. These Astonishes have already put it in a rock throw farm down range, and I already have my shield. If I grab this last shield, this game is most certainly over, and even if I don't, it's over either way. The only issue here is if they get to back-to-back charge moves, which they do, but they weren't quite there yet, so they had to slightly overfarm. I already had the move banked, and at this point, I think my opponent just quit the app because they were mad they didn't get to 2 charge moves before I had my charge move loaded. And at this point, when that final Pokemon does come back in, the Galarian Weezing, I can just rock throw farm it down, and we are able to take that win. Okay, into the next match, we finally see our Jellicent team. This is Jellicent Mawile and the Alolan Ninetales, and we have a really rough lead in the first match. We've got a Shadow Feraligatr, but we can eat the Hydro, but they're actually on Crunch, which is detrimental. That nearly KOs our Jellicent, and we do go for a Surf Bait, but this is going to be really hard to work out of, because even though we've grabbed that shield in the lead matchup, we have 2 Pokemon in the back with fast moves that are resisted on that water typing, but they have a Gastrodon in the back. Now this is okay because this is a pretty neutral matchup, and they let us get an energy lead, which actually means that I can make it to back-to-back charge moves here before they're even able to make it to an Earth Power, and they do unfortunately make it to a move. I have a bunch of energy, and I need to kind of use this onto that Feraligatr, so I will shield that up. It is the Earth Power. Are they going to come back with the Feraligatr? They are, and because they're close to a move, I'm kind of forced to throw my energy right away. Psyshock, they let that through, which is absolutely massive. It is the Credilli in the back, and at this point, I'm just going to basically stay in this matchup, get as many Powder Snows and Wither Balls off as I can, and even if they're able to get the full farm down, that's okay, because I want to be able to reset the debuff on my Jellicent. So I'm going to come in with Mawile, just kidding, I'm going to catch, and I actually catch a Rock Tomb on my Jellicent, and that will just definitely seal the deal. I don't believe 2 charge moves would have KO'd the Mawile either way, but that definitely puts the nail in the coffin. Okay, Lapras on the lead in the next match. This is a great lead for the Jellicent, so finally a good lead. They come in with an Amoonguss, and we have Mawile to answer. Now, all charge moves are resisted, but we've seen this play out before in previous matchups, that if they decide to shield this up, they can actually flip switch. So I'm adapting, and I'm going for a power-up punch, but of course, this is the one opponent that is running the shadow that doesn't decide to flip switch, which is unfortunate because now that means I have to commit the shield. However, I am boosted, so if I'm able to get to an Iron Head here, this will do some decent chip to the Lapras, and it'll definitely give Jellicent an even better advantage on that lead matchup. Now I can align my Jellicent. I'm really hoping they throw, and they do, which is absolutely massive. Everything the Lapras can learn is resisted here. Sparkling Aria, Ice Beam, Skull Bash, and it is a Tropius in the back. Now this is fantastic. I can live one Leaf Blade. It will hurt. It might even put me in the yellow, and it does, but I'm definitely going to be able to outpace in this matchup, which is super nice because that means here comes one Weather Ball. If they throw in good timing, which they do, that allows me to get to a second Weather Ball. And this will probably grab the final shield for my opponent, which means this game is already over. And they throw because they realize I'm not going to get the farm down. And at this point, I can just come in with my Jellicent, hex down the Tropius. They come back in with the Lapras, realizing what's happening. I can connect with the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball is enough to KO the Lapras from that range. And we can hex down the Tropius for the win. Okay, into the next match, we've got Jellicent into Lapras again. Okay, once again, just going to play it out. They have Amoonguss as the safe switch. This one is the non-shadow, so I'm going to play this one out a little bit differently. Probably going to go for the Iron Head right away, not expecting them to shield because it is a little bit more difficult to flip switch here. However, I do make it to the Iron Head before they're able to make it to a second move. Iron Head actually is shielded, so my opponent playing it out. But I am able to make it to a power-up punch. This won't KO, it is resisted, but at least it'll put the Amoonguss pretty low. But my opponent loses track of my charge move energy, and I get one turn lag when I come in with my Jellicent, which is really unfortunate because I think that means they can now get to back-to-back foul plays. It looks like they would have got there either way, so that's not too bad, but they wouldn't have gotten that extra Astonish. But now that they flip switch, I'm basically just sacrificing my Jellicent, and now I'm getting an energy lead onto my Ninetales. This puts me in a better position against the Lapras, and I know that the reason they fought for switch so bad is they have a hard check to Jellicent in the back. So that is why I just soaked up those charge moves. I'm going to shield everything on Ninetales and really just hope that Ninetales can sweep this game. Sparkling Aria is coming through. I'm able to make it to a Psyshock before they're able to make it to a second Sparkling Aria. Psyshock is going to connect. It looks like the next Psyshock will KO. My opponent with perfect counting and understanding of where my energy is at, so I'm going to do the exact same thing to them, throwing right before they get to the next charge move. Psyshock will be enough to KO the Lapras, and what is in the back but a Tropius. And unfortunately for my opponent, with one Pokemon remaining and no shields, here comes a double super effective Shadow Stab Weather Ball, and that is basically enough to KO with one more Powder Snow. Now we switch to Alolan Ninetales on the lead, and we catch the Tropius on the lead, which is fantastic. They switch into a Marshtomp, a Shadow Marshtomp at that. This thing does have access to Mud Bomb and Sludge, so I will grab a shield with my Alolan Ninetales and then come in with my Jellicent. Jellicent can soak up 2 moves here, but there's no really need to. I don't want to give them a potential to flip switch. So I'm going to shield this up, and then I'm just going to go for a slight overfarm here and then connect with a Surf. Just matching shields that my opponent uses in this matchup. This forces them to just let this go, because if they tried to shield that up, I would just be able to shield back and then KO. I am going to overfarm here, going for the Shadow Ball. They are at enough for over a Leaf Blade now, and if they continue to overfarm, I will connect with a second Shadow Ball. My opponent realizing they don't really need health on this Tropius, they just need energy, so they just take all that energy, they bank it for later, they come in with a Jellicent. They only farm up to a Surf, so I definitely am just going to let this go, and now I'm going to overfarm massively here. I'm going to go for the Stone Edge, no point in baiting here. We can probably make it to a charge move on our Ninetales if we need to, and my opponent does correctly shield that up. At this point, I probably am just going to let this go, or am I going to grab that last shield? Last second, decide to go for the shield. I make sure that they don't get a catch onto their Tropius. I connect with the Stone Edge, and now they come in with the Tropius, and even though they're at back-to-back moves, I get 2 Powder Snows through, which means that is enough to KO the Tropius, and we're able to take that win. Terrible lead in the next match, and the final match of the video, we've got a Tentacruel we're going to come in with our safe switch of Barbarical, and they come in with a Shadow Cacturn. Now, Cacturn is grass type, but it isn't using grass type fast move damage, and we have super effective cross chops coming their way. So we are going to be able to grab 2 shields in this matchup or flip switch with a shield grabbed, but my opponent decides to commit 2 shields, and at this point I'm just going to come in with the Alolan Ninetales. I'm going to shield everything. Naturally, I'm going to get 1 turn lag when I do. Shield this back up, but now we're in a 0 shield scenario, which is exactly where we want to be, because now we have super effective Psyshocks for this Tentacruel. 1 will not be enough to KO, especially if they're the non-shadow. I don't remember if they were the shadow or the non-shadow. They are the shadow, so that actually does pretty solid damage, but it is a Tropius in the back, so this is looking pretty good. As long as my opponent can't KO and bank back-to-back moves, basically, then we're in a pretty good spot. My opponent does overfarm as much as they possibly can, throwing out the Leaf Blade, but it is not enough to KO, so they're forced to throw back-to-back moves, and now this means they are basically energy dry at this point, which is pretty unfortunate for my opponent, because that means I can get the full Powder Snow farm down, come out with a Psyshock loaded, just click the move, Psyshock, super effective damage, and add a Tentacruel in the red, and that is more than enough to KO the Tentacruel, and we're able to take that win, even off the hard counter. So yeah, a mix of hard counter leads, good leads, bad leads, you get the picture, but these were some of the highlights that I had climbing from 2500, 2700. All these teams are totally viable. You can literally use any of these to climb depending on what is strong in your elo. I noticed in my elo a lot of the Galarian Weezings were running Brutal Swing and Overheat just because I think it's the safest moveset. And that is resisted on the Carbink, and then they were running things like Golisopod, Lapras, Tropius, Dugong, all these things weak to rock, and I was like, okay, Carbink looks like an absolute core breaker, and that's why I brought it out. All the others I think I've already showcased on my channel, so yeah, that's going to be it for me from this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, peace!